now listening to the Arsenal Therapy Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the 15-Minute Show. I'm Adam Keys, and today we're going to be talking about the lessons we've got from pre-season so far. It's been a really interesting pre-season from Arsenal's standpoint because with the Euros, we've had so many players coming back late. We've had so many players missing at the start. We've had a slow integration of players. This is something that we haven't had for a long time at Arsenal because we haven't been good enough. We haven't had major international tournaments. So it's been a long time since Arsenal had a large volume of players away at the beginning of the season. And Mikel has had a challenge of slowly integrating players. In fact, this is probably the first time Mikel has had that in his tenure at Arsenal. So let's have a run through some of the key things that we've noticed on the pre-season tour. First up, as you can imagine, Martin Odegaard, central to everything, but he isn't actually one of the lessons we're going to look at because he has just been brilliant as expected. We are going to do a more dedicated show on him and the things that we're starting to see. But for now, it's going to be more of a holistic approach of the team and some other players that we've really noticed and just the slight tweaks that we've seen that could give players opportunities, could free others up, and how Arsenal could look this season. But one of the big ones is Kai Havertz. He's a player that I've talked a lot about on this show, a lot about on our main pod as well. But there's been this assumption that in the second half of the season, Kai played up front. Arsenal won nearly every game. That isn't actually true. Kai played 6 times as a left 8 in the second half of the season. He didn't play as a centre forward in every game. And people point to the Villa game and say, that was the game Arteta tweaked things and it didn't work. Again, that's not actually true. Kai played as a left 8 in that game, but he also played 5 other times as a left 8. And in that game, we saw Kai get in behind 3 times, and it was the failure of his execution that led to him not being more clinical. In pre-season, we've seen him play as a centre forward against Lyon, but we saw him as a left 8 against Leverkusen and in the previous game against Liverpool. What's interesting is the team dynamics with Kai as a left 8, because this is an experiment that I don't think is over. I don't think it was an experiment. I think it was a learning curve. And that's something that we need to learn to understand is the difference between learning and the difference between experimenting. Some things are just a pie in the sky. Let's throw that out and see if it works. We don't have other players in that position. Others are, we know this player has the qualities to do this. Let's go out, let's implement this, and let's learn it. And the reality is, if you stand still in football, everyone figures out what you're going to do. It doesn't matter how good you are, you can't stand still. And people just point solely to the transfer window, but tactically and in terms of player evolution, you have to keep growing and progressing. And that's something that we're seeing here with Kai. We're seeing a player that is more willing to take the ball on in certain circumstances, is more willing to get involved and really grab the game in the left 8 position. But what's interesting is he's someone that is so good off the ball. He's so good at running in behind. And this is something that we saw repeatedly in pre-season and how he got his assists against Leverkusen. And then his goal, we saw him pop up in the centre forward position. But what's been really interesting is the way him and Trossard and him and Jesus have interlinked in when he's playing in that 8 position. If we see him in the 9 position, we see a slightly different system as well. We see a great zone dominator. We see someone that attacks the 6-yard box in the way our other strikers don't necessarily do. So what we've got in Kai is a true Swiss Army knife here. We've got a multifunctional attacker who's incredibly intelligent, but still lacks the ball striking qualities that we know our striker needs. And this is something that Kai really needs to work on. He's got the technique. It's more that kind of clarity right before he strikes it that he needs to work on. But the big learning from pre-season is Ethan Nwaneri and Myles-Lewis-Skelly. The two of them have come into pre-season, and my challenge for them was, I want to see you grab games. I don't want to see that bit of youthful promise. I want to see you showing your personality. And that's exactly what these two have done. They have got on the ball. They've shown that physically that they're ready to compete. And that is the biggest thing for a 17-year-old. It's are you physically ready? Because quite often the technique is already in place at that age. Arsene Wenger used to always say it was either 12 or 14 years old. Once you were past that, it was very difficult to improve technically. The base level of your technique was already founded before then. With Ethan and Myles, they are clearly incredibly gifted footballers, but they are now showing they're physically ready and they're mentally ready. And that's a big thing. It's when you come into a senior football and environment, especially a team that are as good as Arsenal and at the level we're at right now, do you feel that you belong in that environment? And the two of them have shown that they more than belong. Earlier in the season, I said that fans need to be patient. This was after the Lawns game. I tweeted this saying fans need to accept that there's a journey. Nwaneri, Walters, Lewis-Skelly, Saigo Jr., Sosa, they're getting in the matchday squads. They're training with the first team. When they get their chance, it'll be because they're ready, not because of others, and not because Arteta's just given them pity minutes. It's because they're genuinely ready. And I stand by that. Arteta doesn't give people minutes because he wants to see what they can do on the pitch. He watches them train every day. He places huge value on training exercises. And these two have shown now that they have grabbed their opportunity. The fact that they have played so many minutes in pre-season is because they're ready. They have earned it, and they've shown that on the training ground that they are ready to play for the Arsenal first team. And again, with these two, I tweeted yesterday saying the two of them have played real meaningful minutes. And again, going back to the mentally, physically, and technical levels that they've shown, they have earned these opportunities. They have gone out and shown that they belong to play at this level. Last year, the only player that was brought on the preseason tour was Cozier Dubry. He didn't play any minutes. This year, these two have played in every preseason game. Every game. They've started in games and they've come off the bench. And when they've come off the bench, they haven't come off for 5 minutes. They've come off and got meaningful minutes. And when they've come on the pitch, they have accurately represented their talent. And that's a hugely important thing. And what it's showing is that these two are ready. Ethan Nwaneri's been the one that's really got the kind of limelight. But Myles-Lewis-Skelly is a player that's highly versatile. I believe his future will probably be as a 6. I think he's the closest thing that we've got to Thomas Partey in terms of how he can break the lines with his passing. If you look at it, he's so good at pushing the ball out from his body and whipping it straight down the line in a way with so much zip on it that it's really difficult to stop. He's someone that can play as a left back inverting. He has struggled with Heaven beside him, but Heaven struggled as a 17-year-old defender, being thrown in at the deep end, but has also acquitted himself quite well because he's responded to his mistakes. Put Myles-Lewis-Skelly beside Gabriel, a lot of these things don't happen. They get cut out and no one notices. But the fact that he can play as an inverted left back, he can play as a 6, and he can play as an 8, to me makes me feel like he will get minutes this season. Nwaneri, I think, will play 20 games across the season. I've said that for a while, and I really stand by that. So with these two, the big learning is not that they have real talent. It's that they're ready to play, and there's a big difference there. If you're ready to play, you're ready to play. But another one is Zinchenko. Zinchenko's been written off by the majority of our fan base so far. It looked like there was a strong chance he would leave the club this season. And then a few weeks ago, he got the number 17 shirt, which seemed to dispel those rumors. But what I've really liked from Zinchenko is that he's come back looking a lot fitter than he had. Last season, I felt he looked sluggish. At times, he looked like he was trying too hard and he just wasn't delivering as a result of that. This time he's come back, he's looking leaner, more agile, and he's looking focused. That's one of the key things, is focus. With Zinchenko, we know he's got the tendency to switch off, but his technical quality is so high, and what he brings on the ball is unique. With Calafiori coming in, it looks like Zinchenko's got a bit of fire up him that he has needed for a while. It's your place is not safe. Remember, he also got dropped for the run-in last year. Tomiyasu played ahead of him. Kivior had been playing ahead of him. He came back in. He had a really bad game against Villa in the second half. And what Zinchenko has a tendency to do whenever he's not playing well is overplay. And what I've noticed from him in pre-season is that he's been more willing to let his teammates do more of the work. He hasn't been as obsessed with jumping on the ball at every opportunity. Whenever he's come infield, he's coming infield on the left. Again, before we were seeing a lot more of him popping up on the right, which destabilizes the whole team. It pushes your 6 to the left. It means that your left back sitting in the right half space, and everything becomes unbalanced. We're seeing Zinchenko play in a more grown-up way, a more mature way, and a way more fitting of his experience. But what we saw against Leverkusen in particular, with those balls over the top to Kai, was a player that was really utilizing his technical qualities. And we know what Zinchenko's weaknesses are going backwards, but Arsenal can protect him. And there are games where you're not going to play Zinchenko, but there are games where Zinchenko's qualities are so undeniable that they can absolutely destroy a team. And when we've got him in the team, I think we have to look at him. But what's interesting is a lot of people are saying 17 midfield. There's a reason Zinchenko is not being used as a left 8 for Arsenal, because Mikel Arteta values duels so highly. Those roles are so heavily focused around running and off the ball work that having a player like Zinchenko as a left 8 at Arsenal completely changes how that left 8 role plays. And that, for me, is the main reason why he's never been used as a midfielder and why his talents are so well served deep. It's also worth noting for the last year, he hasn't played in midfield for the Ukraine. He has played as a left back. So I imagine that will continue this year. And as a defender, we need the depth. That's plain and simple. Yes, we're well stocked, but I would say we are adequately stocked as opposed to overstocked to the point where we can afford to move one of them into midfield. But Zinchenko's performances have earned rave reviews. So Sam Dean calling him out with statement performances, James Benge, Bhavs as well, hitting on his line-breaking passes, his football brain being too good not to use, and ultimately playing to Zinchenko's strengths. We've got a very useful player. I think Zinchenko also has to play to the team's strengths, and that's knowing when he needs to step back and let others do the work. He's an incredible passer of a football, but he is not the only one in our team that's an incredible passer of a football. Then we look at Martinelli. He's someone that's come in for a bit of criticism, but this is a guy that created 4 chances against Lyon, one of which was a fantastic pass to Havertz, another great pass into Odegaard. Then the crosses into Saka that Saka probably could have done better, and a better header of a ball would have done better. Martinelli, however, was very wasteful in front of goal, but then we saw him score a very good goal against Man United. He's a player that is constantly kind of getting a bit of stick from the fan base at the minute. We know his end product can be wasteful. We know his decision-making can lead to some criticism at times, but Martinelli is a player with undeniable qualities. And even when he's kind of searching for form as he is now, he is still a menace and he still causes havoc with defenders. We saw against Lyon, and something that he has earned a bit of criticism for, when he got in behind, beautiful pass from Kai Havertz, Martinelli sprinted away from the defender. The defender ended up recovering. The issue there wasn't that he didn't beat the man. He does, but he elects to come in field, which allows the defender to buy that extra yard and ultimately get the ball away. But had he have shot on his left, he's left that defender for dead. And this is where the decision-making comes in for Martinelli. Arsenal can fix the left-hand side, get it more fluid, and that's already happened in pre-season. We're seeing a lot more left-sided involvement than we did last year. But it's also on Martinelli to grab his opportunity and show what he can do. Arsenal are still in the market for a forward. Martinelli needs to grab his opportunity. But lastly, Thomas Partey. He's a player that has played himself into form and fitness during pre-season. I firmly believe that during the US tour, playing on the plastic pitches, Arteta's probably told Thomas to be careful out there. I don't want to see big 40-yard sprints from you running towards your own goal. And that led to a bit of criticism. People saying that he was washed, he was done, he's not the player we need. Like, I hold a lot of reservations about whether Thomas Partey can stay fit for a season. But with midfield reinforcements, we can manage his minutes better. We've seen in pre-season just how good this guy is. The things that he can do on the ball, no one else in our team can do. And that's something that we can't deny. Until we've got a replacement better than Thomas Partey, it's difficult not to play him. So when he's fit, when he's agile, and I repeat the word fit, because fit doesn't just mean not injured. we've seen Thomas Partey takes a while to come back. People were very quick to say, throw Thomas Partey in. It doesn't work. He's a player that takes time to build up actual fitness, then sharpness, and then rhythm. And those three things are extremely important. Some players can come back, they train for a few days, and they're ready to go again. Olivier Giroud was a great example of that. Thomas Partey isn't that player. He takes time to build rhythm. We're now seeing that rhythm come together, and he's someone that is really finding form and really putting it together for Arsenal. Against Lyon, he had another real standout performance, and that's something that just keeps continuing. The key is for Arsenal is how we manage that going forward. How do we manage his minutes? How do we protect him as well? And how do we ensure that that partnership of him, Rice, and Odegaard flourishes? With Saliba, Gabriel, Ben White, and now with Calafiori in the team as well, Arsenal will have a back four that are really high up the pitch and can protect him a bit more. Both fullbacks can invert. That leads to less big sprints for Thomas. That leads to just more protection, smaller spaces between players. He's not having to do as much on the ball every time. He's got those players around him. And it's essentially load management within a game. But then in terms of volume of games, we're also looking at Mikel Merino, and there's been links to other players. So let's watch this space, because centre midfield is an area that we need to reinforce. Him and Jorginho are getting older. Thomas looks very, very good. He's still an incredible player. But the question is, can he stay fit for a sustained period of time? Until that happens, we're still going to have to go with what history tells us, which is no. But the hope is he can stay fit for a much longer period of time, because if he is fit, he's got undeniable qualities. But look, drop us a message on a comment on this video. Drop us a like. Tell us what you think. What did you learn from pre-season, and what are you excited about seeing as the season kicks off? Thank you to everyone that's joined us. Have a great day, and we will catch you again soon.